From the Kolkata studios of Republic TV, it's time for Arnab Goswami on the debate.
The second wave of COVID infections is much more dangerous than what we saw last year. The numbers are also much higher than they were last year. At a time like this, what is necessary is a unified national strategy. This is the biggest ever health crisis. Here is why the situation is even worse than last year, and then we shall debate.
Nagpur, Maharashtra. An emergency situation in hospitals due to shortage of beds and ventilators as the second wave hits India. Ahmednagar, Maharashtra. A patient dies inside a car as his family went from one hospital to another, struggling to find a bed. They failed. Surat, Gujarat. A patient who succumbed in the battle against COVID being carried in a push cart to the crematorium as the system collapses. The spurt in cases across India is unprecedented. The spike compared to April 2020 is pretty massive. The situation across India is serious.
यह संक्रमण पिछली बार से कई गुना ज़्यादा तेजी से फैल रहा है। मध्य प्रदेश में हमने 3 तरह की रणनीति इसमें बनाई है। संक्रमण रुके, इसके लिए जन जागरण अभियान, कैसे कम लोग सड़कों पर निकले, जो अत्यंत आवश्यक गतिविधियां हैं वो जारी रहें, बाकी भीड़ भाड़ वाली चीजें छोड़ दें।
Most states are inching towards a lockdown, though it's a tough option.
हम लॉकडाउन नहीं लगाना चाहते, लेकिन कल सरकार को मजबूरीवश कुछ रिस्ट्रिक्शंस के ऑर्डर किए गए हैं। कोरोना को रोकने की कोशिश, स्प्रेड को रोकने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
While some are banking on vaccinations to tackle the situation,
एट प्रेजेंट हमने स्टेट में वैसे कोई लॉकडाउन मेंशन नहीं किया है। हम टेस्टिंग ज्यादातर बढ़ा रहे हैं, हॉस्पिटल फैसिलिटी सब कुछ लोगों को अवेलेबल कर दे रहे हैं। मुझे लगता है कि कंटिन्यूअसली टेस्टिंग करके होम आइसोलेशन, अदरवाइज क्वारंटाइन, और जिसको चाहिए उसको हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन, दैट इज ओनली द सॉल्यूशन एंड नॉट द लॉकडाउन।
tonight all parties and all governments must unite and effectively find a strategy to counter COVID-19. The approval of a third vaccine from Russia is a start.
It's been approved in 60 countries already worldwide. Speaking of recognition of Sputnik V, I said it recently on your program as well that British company, poll company, they conducted a poll and the results said that Sputnik V is the most recognized vaccine in Russia. There was a poll done in Germany as well.
Is it time to put aside all differences and find a strategy to find the second wave? Let's debate.
On the debate tonight, I would like to start by, before I go to Dr. Randeep Guleria, who's Director of AIMS, Nupur of the BJP, Sohail Darshan Hiranandani, CEO of H Energy, Dr. Subramaniam Swaminathan, he's an infectious diseases expert, Dr. Shashank Joshi, member of the COVID Task Force of Maharashtra, Smita Prakash, Dr. P.K. Basu, and Dr. Sameer Dalwai, spokesperson of the NCP. Thank you everyone and welcome. Dr. Randeep Guleria, just to start with you first. how much worse is this than last year? Than the peak of last year?
This is much
How bad will
worse
the
than
peak
what we
be
saw last year.
this year?
For
And
two
how far
reasons.
away is the peak?
This is much worse than what we saw. Firstly, what we have seen is that the number of cases has become huge. And secondly, the rate of rise of cases is much faster than what we've seen before. And this is causing a huge strain on the healthcare services. We're running out of hospital beds. We're having a huge problem in terms of managing our sick patients. And if the numbers keep rising like this, there's going to be a big problem as far as the healthcare infrastructure is concerned. It is getting stretched. And we must understand that we need to really bring these cases down on an urgent basis.
What other way do we have apart from a lockdown? Nothing else seems to be working.
So there is a lot of things that we can do, and I think there has to be a multi-pronged attack, and that has to be at a national level. There is a lot of homework that was done 6 months ago, and we need to really revisit that. There were strategies which were put in place in terms of defining the country into various zones, the red, the yellow, the green zones. In those areas where we're seeing a huge surge in the number of cases, we really need to see that we make them into containment zones. Cases and infection doesn't spread from that area to the other areas, and we do aggressive testing, tracking, treating, and isolation, and track everyone who is positive, isolate them either in home or in the COVID care center, ramp up our facilities. We need to really ramp up the COVID care centers, the COVID hospitals, and the COVID ICUs, because the cases will rise proportionally in the coming days. So all the strategy that was worked up through in July, August, and September seems to have been forgotten, and we really need to get back to the basics in terms of trying to decrease the number of cases.
I'll get back later to how we got here. But have we been irresponsible?
Yes, I would say we've been responsible. We've got this on ourselves. When our situation was very good in January and February, everyone felt that now COVID is over and now the vaccine is here. But that was not true. The virus was still amongst us. And because we really let our guard down, we did not have COVID appropriate behavior. We started having parties. This led to this huge surge in the cases. And we haven't really learned from history itself. If you look at the history of the 1918 pandemic, this is exactly what happened. After the first wave, people started having parties. They thought now the influenza pandemic is over. And that led to a huge second wave, which caused more deaths than the first wave. And this is exactly what we're seeing now as what we had seen in 1918.
Are we short of vaccines?
So vaccine is something that we will always have to have a graded response. Let's look at what we would like to do in an ideal situation. We would like to ideally vaccinate all of the adult population in our country. If we were to look at the adult population in our country, we're looking at something like 97 crore people, or about 1 billion people. For 2 shots, we need 2 billion doses. Even if we were to get all the vaccines which are available globally, we will not have enough vaccines to vaccinate 2 billion people. No one in the world could be able to do that. Therefore, the vaccine strategy has to be a graded response.
That doesn't explain it, Dr. Guleria. Dr. Guleria, that doesn't quite explain it. I'm sorry to intervene there. That doesn't quite explain it. This is what I've been hearing all along. That if you have to vaccinate all, you need these many vaccines. But at the same time, we're also told by the same people that there is vaccine wastage, which means that not enough number of people over the age of 45 in the categories which have been cleared are actually taking the vaccine. So it doesn't add up. And I think denying a vaccine to any adult when it is available is a crime. You know, and to be so rigid about it. To even say, let the vaccine go waste. But we will not allow anyone else to get vaccinated. I mean, that's an extreme situation. So we are running behind 2 extremes. We have the government which has decided that no, we cannot give everyone the vaccine, even if we have more than we're actually using. Why can't we say that we create criteria where others in need of the vaccine or if the vaccine is to go waste, can get vaccinated. Every time you waste a vaccine, you have a greater chance of one more person being infected. Why don't we look at it that way?
So if we were to look at what is the reason for vaccine wastage, the reason for vaccine wastage is vaccine comes in vial of 10 or 20. So if you open a vaccine vial late in the evening and you have only 2 people to vaccinate, you have 18 doses which may go waste. So it's an issue of trying to develop a strategy that all the doses which are opened up late in the evening get used. And also that it's done in a proper manner and it's not exploited. There are also stories that one hears of it being purposely done.
Sure, so why don't we do that?
Extra vaccines being sold in the black market. So I think we need to really look at the whole situation and see how we can have optimum utilization, keeping the.
But you need to trust your medical institutions.
Because if you were to open it up for everyone,
you need to trust your medical institutions.
Say someone at the age of 18 to 30 got it, and someone who was 60 years old did not get the vaccine and died because he did not get the vaccine, it would actually be unethical to deny those who have a higher risk of dying because of COVID.
That would not be the case, because if there was someone over the age of 45 who was to get the vaccine, they would have got it within the day. But if there were any unused vials, then those unused vials could be given to those, who are more keen to have the vaccine. I feel we are going between two extremes, but you did not answer my question. Are we short of vaccines, Dr. Guleria? Can we not import enough for our people when we've given away at least 5 million doses, 6 million doses to Bangladesh and Pakistan we've been giving as part of our international protocol? No, why don't we import more vaccines? We've been great to the world. We've given vaccines to Pakistan, to Bangladesh, to the Dominican Republic. What about Indians?
So if I may add, it would be great if we could get vaccines from outside, but we need to have companies willing to come and give it to us from outside. Pfizer had actually put in an application for providing vaccines to India, but they withdrew that application because of the huge orders that they got from outside. And we have to look at whether these vaccines are practical to be used in our country. We don't have minus 70 degrees available across the country to transport vaccines which have to be kept at minus 70 degrees centigrade. So I think we have to really look at vaccines which are practical for our country, which are cost effective, and which we can really roll out to even in rural part of the country. And the vaccines that we have currently, the third one which has also got approved, are the ones which meets the criteria. If we have to have a vaccine which has to be kept at minus 70 degrees, it's going to be difficult to get that.
Sputnik 5.
But I do agree with you that we need to get as many vaccines as we can for our population.
Sputnik 5.
And even if we have to get them from outside, we need to develop
Sputnik
a strategy
V.
to do that.
But the Russian anti-COVID vaccine Sputnik V does not need to be kept in minus 70. Is it an effective vaccine? Can we import a lot from Russia?
It's a very effective vaccine. The data which has been published in peer-reviewed journal shows an efficacy of 91%, and it's very safe. And therefore, I think this is a vaccine which will also be very useful as far as the Indian situation is concerned.
Last question, Dr. Guleria. Is there a natural trough and low of this, sort of a trough and high? Do we know that the peak could come, say, 1 month from now? Can we assume that it will come down 2 months from now? Is there any guarantee like that?
So it depends on two things. One, of course, is how we behave. If there is aggressive COVID appropriate behavior, if there is decrease in the crowds, the number of cases will come down and our peak will be not that large and it will come down quickly. If that does not happen, the cases may continue to rise over the next 4 to 6 weeks, and after that only will we see a decline. So a lot depends on how the citizens of the country behave in terms of COVID appropriate behavior.
Okay. Dr. Guleria, I thank you very much for joining us. I know you're right there in the middle of a battle. Can't wish you all the luck in leading this battle.
Thank you.
Dr. Arnab Guleria, it's a pleasure talking to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Dr. Shashank Joshi, how are we going to deal with this situation? Let's open up to debate now. It's a tough situation. It looks like life started all over again. We all said, oh, we'll all lost a year. The fear among people is they're going to lose another year. What really is the ground situation? The only difference is there's a vaccine now. But there also not everyone's getting the vaccine or being allowed to get it.
So Arnab, let us look at this wave in a very scientific manner. This wave started around 2 months back. We always anticipated the second wave. It started in those geographies which were less exposed, like Vidarbha, Marathwada and Kerala, where there were local elections. And people had totally stopped behaving appropriately. And from there it spread like a tsunami. This is clearly a fast spreading strain which has bypassed the nose and has entered the lungs. And the rapidity of spread is in geometric progression, much faster than the last year. And that is why we are swarmed with these numbers which we are seeing. Despite of increasing...
No, bypass the nose and enter the lungs. Can you explain that? Can you explain that?
See, this is...
Can you explain that when you said bypass the nose and spread the lungs? Are you saying the behavior of the vaccine is different?
So I will explain that, Arnab. We are seeing a faster transmitting virus. I am not attributing any genomics to it. There are excellent genomic scientists from CSIR and ICMR which will prove or disprove the point. But the clinical phenotype, you see, there is also something that we see clinically. This is a rapid, fast spreading strain where families are affected in clusters. And this was observed in Amravati, this was observed in Akola and Yavatmal in Vidarbha. And after that, this strain has spread across in Maharashtra. And now this strain or similar strains have been seen in Punjab and they have spread in Delhi. And you will see this spreading across the country. And we had seen a similar pattern which was seen in United Kingdom. And exactly when the strain was discovered was in September. In December, they headed for a very tight lockdown. And this rapidity of rise of this transmissibility has to be broken. Now there has to be a zero tolerance for COVID appropriate behavior. We have to mask and double mask. Vaccines will prevent the third wave and mitigate and blunt the third wave. But for second wave, we have to, it's a war. It's an absolute war. We are overwhelmed. Our hospitals are full. Our ICUs are full. You have seen what has happened at Lilavati and several other hospitals in Mumbai and Maharashtra, in Pune. And for the first time today, we can see for the last 5 consecutive days, Mumbai's test positivity rate has come down after exponentially increasing the testing from 25% to 18%. So we are seeing the first sign of plateauing off. So if we have zero tolerance to COVID appropriate behavior and we are able to tighten the COVID appropriate protocols, we can blunt this curve. I am an optimist. I feel we can blunt this curve in 2 to 4 weeks in Mumbai and Maharashtra, but we need to be absolutely having zero tolerance. We cannot have any tolerance of, there cannot be anything coming in between the virus and us. We have to be responsible. We have to double mask, and absolutely if you have to go out only if it is mandatory. We can still beat it. And the rest of India has to follow to adhere to COVID appropriate protocols. If that is done, we can still beat the virus. Otherwise, for another 2 to 3 months, we'll be into deep down trouble. It's a very, very grim situation, and which is why you see that almost, and this whole word lockdown, people are tabooed to it. But I think we will have to go through a zero tolerance, even if you do on lockdown. But after that, again, you start doing the COVID inappropriate behavior, we'll be back to square one. So we have to adhere to zero tolerance to COVID appropriate behavior and protocols. And I think we have to ourselves to blame. We did not behave responsibly. We were reckless. We were revengeful. We went into a rebellious mode, and we are still in that mode. I mean, look at what is happening at Kumbh Mela today. Look at what is happening to the various election rallies today. And this is like, we need to set right examples in front of people. We are in midst of a war, and it's a war against a virus which is invisible, which has entered our lives, and we have to stem it. Even now, it's not too late. I'm appealing through you, Arnabji, and all the people here, that we can still fight it by simple masking, distancing, and being safe. Each human being has to take responsibility. We can't be in this rebellious mode all the time.
Are we ready for this?
I think we don't have a choice.
Shashank, you're completely correct, but are we ready for it? Are we ready for it? I mean, there's a sense of defiance, but there's a sense of fear also. And also, I want to ask you here: is it true that this at least there's 2 rumors which I want to check with Dr. Subramanian Swaminathan of Gleneagles. Can you hear me, Dr. Swaminathan from Chennai? My question to you is: is it true that younger people are affected more by this second strain? By this strain, A. B. We're getting reports that people who got vaccinated and double vaccinated have also been infected. Like we were told, reports of a hospital in Delhi where there were 35 doctors who'd been vaccinated and got their second shot, who got COVID. Now, does this mean that that COVID has mutated against the vaccines or any specific kind of vaccine?
See, first let's accept that we are trying to hit a moving target and therefore nothing that we do is going to be 100% perfect. But having said that, the vaccine is actually quite brilliant. The first question first, how bad is the demographics? I was just looking over my own ICU data.
Do you mean all vaccines?
32 odd patients that I have
let me ask you again, do you mean both Covishield and Covaxin equally?
Pretty good. See, when I look at the demographics, I'm seeing a lot more people under the age of 60 and more people under the age of 45 in my ICU as compared to last time. I have very few people over 60 years of age. I have mostly 45 to 60 and quite a few of less than 45 in my ICU, which is really creeping me out. That's number one. Second, as far as the vaccine is concerned, please understand no vaccine is 100% perfect. I have had patients who have had their Pfizer vaccine, both doses given in the US or Switzerland or whatnot, and they have gotten infected too. I have confirmed infections here. So let's understand that no vaccine will give you 100% protection against infection. It's not infection that we are looking at. For a personal mandate, it's prevention of severe disease and death. Is it effective for that? The answer is brilliantly so, yes. So that's why we are seeing a lot of people running to vaccine centers now, literally begging for the vaccine, because it's now become clear that the only way to prevent death from COVID, at least when people are not taking individual responsibility, is the vaccine. Yes, all the personal mandate is required, but the vaccine is also an important part of protection against death against COVID. So while you mentioned that data that came out of Delhi, I would also urge people to look at how many people got severely sick. Of the people who did get COVID, in spite of 2 doses of the vaccine, not a single person developed severe COVID. So this is in keeping with the percentage that we see of protection and developing mild COVID after 2 doses of vaccine. So this is not unusual at all. If somebody got severe COVID after 2 doses of vaccine, I'd be petrified about it because that would be a problem. So far, at least, that kind of signal has not come out. So that is good. So the most important takeaway point is take the vaccine. That's the best you can do.
Saying that in a country where you're not allowed to take the vaccine, most number of people who are getting sick are below the age of 45. 65 to 70% of people, Nupur, below the age of 45. They desperately want the vaccine. They're not getting the vaccine. And that's the problem. You're going around saying, let's spread vaccine, vaccine awareness. Yes, we do. But 70% of the people who are getting COVID want the vaccine, not being given the vaccine, and not even being told whether there's a shortage of vaccines in the country. So, Nupur, that's where the problem begins. Communication is also part and parcel of this entire vaccine battle, COVID battle. There isn't. We don't have the appropriate communication going on either.
Arnab, the supply of vaccines are directly related to the production capacity of, before today, the 2 companies which were manufacturing and producing both Covishield and Covaxin. As far as Serum Institute is concerned, it has a production capacity of 6 to 7 crores a month, and Bharat Biotech has a capacity of up to 1 crore a month. So, and I also, to just lay to rest all these political rumors, ke bahar bhej di, yani bhej di. The exports were delayed around 3.5 weeks ago by the government of India. And this is Serum Institute's own contractual obligation with COVAX, wherein it's supposed to deliver millions and hundreds of millions dosages to COVAX. Now, how can you undo that? And secondly, as far as the gifts or whatever out of compassion, bilateral relations that the government of India has sent across is relatively a smaller proportion. Now, to say, had we not, under the government of India's gift, given out those vaccines, and everybody, you think those many vaccines would be enough to vaccinate 140 crore people? The fact is, like Dr. Guleria earlier said, no country in this world today has the capacity to come up with, say, I would say 200 crores of vaccines so that just in a day or 2 days everybody in this country is vaccinated. That's not possible given the capacity of the manufacturers. Now I would actually like to add what Dr. Guleria left with. He said there is black marketing, but there is also vaccine hesitancy, because I'm also helping people around my area over the age of 45 to go and get their first jab. And mind you, people have stuck on what they heard on television. नहीं हमारे बच्चे होने में परेशानी हो जाएगी, नहीं हमारे बच्चों को परेशानी हो जाएगी. I said you're over 45, what kids are you going to have? नहीं हम मर जाएंगे. नहीं ये कह रहे हैं कि ये तो ठीक नहीं है ये जो इंजेक्शन लग रहा है. These are the kind of excuses
Who says that?
I have heard from people, and mind you, I have sent almost 25 people. People around my area from economically weaker sections who are above 45 all have an Aadhaar card. The minute you start to spread awareness about getting the first dosage, these are the kind of excuses you are hearing from people, which is nothing but vaccine hesitancy. You have to convince people, and that's perhaps what also explains why there was earlier wastage. When India had inoculated or given out 8.7 crore vaccines, do you know almost 60 lakhs were wasted? That means, and as Dr. Guleria said, in a Covishield or vial of 10, if 2 people turned up, 8 were wasted. In a Covaxin vial of 20, if 4 turned up, 16 were wasted.
Yeah, but at that time you also...
From last month,
no, but you, why didn't...
the states of Jharkhand
okay,
and
so let me turn it the other way around. See, I have been... No, a minute please. No, Puri, see, my question to you is, you are saying 6 million doses could have gone waste. My counter to you would be that if only you had created a situation where, if at the end of the day there were extra vials available, that anyone else over 18 could go in, sign up and get vaccinated, then 6 million more Indians would have been vaccinated by now. Dr. Sameer Dalwa, I just want your take on it. Coming back to you, Nupur, yes. So I think we need to open up the vaccination. This remains my consistent view. Increase the imports, make the availability, open up the vaccinations. Let's get Sameer Dalwai coming back to you.
Mr. Goswami, I completely agree with you. In fact, let me share something beyond this. We from the Indian Academy of Pediatrics have written to the Health Ministry at the center, as well as we are everywhere else, to allow pediatricians to vaccinate adults for COVID. And they could be provided with a fixed number of doses for the simple reason that they already have a cold chain on their premises or their clinics. The community trusts them to give vaccines to their own kids. So it will be much better for them to approach the pediatrician to give vaccines. The second thing, like you mentioned, that if it gets closed at 6 p.m. and we are going to end up wasting 6 million doses, why can't we keep it open 24 hours or even later? In fact, that's the advantage with pediatricians, because we are used to practicing late in the evening. Parents come home from work, then they would bring a child to the clinic. So pediatricians would practice later in the evening as well. And we have 33,000 pediatricians just in the academy. So we need to do things like what you said, maybe keep the vaccination centers open all through so there's no wastage. And at the same time, think of a game changer, maybe like bringing in pediatricians or even general practitioners to vaccinate adults for COVID.
So question is, sorry Sameer, we are having a little video problem with you. We're going to get your video, your audio is coming through, but yeah, you're back there. Nupur, we need to be open. Oh, you're back now, you're back. Sohail, I'm coming back to you. You know, essentially, Smita, let me go to Smita before I come to Sohail. We can keep talking about how we got there. Question is to be, how do we get out of here? The only way is let's get very tough. But then no political party wants to get tough. Impose punishments. You can impose 10,000 rupees nowadays for traffic violations. Just impose 10,000 rupees fine for not wearing a mask. First of all, then there will be no political rallies in Bengal. It's also a good revenue generation exercise. Nupur, you will collect 1,000 crores every rally. With that many number of people, you take 10,000 rupees, come without a mask. So, you know, can we get tough?
Just to give in some statistics.
You talk about
Arnab,
acceptable behavior.
Arnab, 1 second, just to get in some statistics.
Well,
70% of the infections are coming from 5 states where there are no elections. And these also account for 44% of the deaths.
Can
Can I just respond to that? Can I respond to that?
I can only tell you the numbers were. Yeah. Okay. Samir is responding, or who's responding? Okay. Samir wants a quick response. I can see Suhail and Smita coming in. Yes, Samir. Yeah.
Just
Yes,
quickly, this is not going to be a fact. It can't happen that in the states where there is a collection of people for a particular reason, whatever it may be, there won't be an infection there and there will be an infection in other states. If the other states have reported that kind of a number, these states which are having a collection of people for political reasons will report a rise in these numbers. Science cannot be prove it otherwise. The virus will affect everybody. It doesn't see whether somebody's gone to a political rally or not. It's bound to increase in these states.
And you heard, and you also heard Shashank earlier, Smita, say that Dr. Shashank Joshi is a very senior member of the COVID task force in Maharashtra, and he has acknowledged that the rise started happening in places like Vidarbha, and then I think he mentioned Kerala, where there are elections. So having elections is not an antidote to stopping COVID. In fact, it's a real and present danger, Smita. So
Yes,
my question is,
exactly.
are we ready to get very tough? I raised my hand, I say let's become very tough.
Or you've had such Arnab, you've had such brilliant doctors making such amazing recommendations on your show. I mean, I really don't know what I can add to this debate. The fantastic things that they have told us. That there is science. Please go with science. And as far as tough is concerned, look, we just heard that the BJP is beginning a door-to-door Sampark program as in West Bengal tomorrow. And if it is intensification of this micro campaigning, then it's a very good step. Let's begin with that. No, stop these big rallies. Enough. You stop the religious events. Have the guts to tell the people at the rallies, at your politicians, your religious leaders, that no, we are in a situation which is like next to panic situation as per what the doctors are saying. We need to stop this. Now, Maharashtra, Delhi, UP, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, they are expected to go into partial or complete lockdown in a few days. Can you imagine? Because the health facilities are so stressed. The doctors are stressed. The health workers are stressed. There aren't enough beds. There aren't enough workers. The numbers are streaming in. And over and above that, one hears about these lockdowns, the complete or partial lockdowns. This is going to worry the daily wagers, the informal workers, the urban middle class. And why? Because there are some people who don't care. They have violated all the curfew, lockdown, appeals, everything that people made, sensible people made, that please adhere to COVID norms, because otherwise what you're going to do is a countrywide blanket lockdown, and that will really damage. Even the CII has advised against even a partial lockdown, because they have said it will lead to decline 50% in production. You've seen how the economy has got such a absolute, a kick in the solar plexus because of this. Please protect the livelihoods. The politicians, the religious leaders need to speak to their congregations that let us not do these big rallies and big get-togethers, and please speak to people to vaccinate. I think Nupur is right when she says, because people like you and me, we are all talking in terms of, we've got reporters who are falling like ninepins. They are there as frontline workers. They were considered as frontline workers when they are working, but they are not frontline workers when it comes to jabs. They are not getting it because 45 and above. And
they can't get vaccinated.
Below too, but they are not frontline
And let me tell you, as far as journalists are concerned, let me tell you, initially when all this started, we were told the media, the news media are like frontline workers, emergency services, but the journalists, the news media of the country are not given any, are not even allowed to take vaccines ahead of any other others. I see no reason why journalists and media should not be treated like frontline workers. You're talking about journalists. Let me tell you, journalists are the one exposing things every day. I want to pull out ANI pictures today. This morning, ANI, Smita's news agency, put out pictures. Sorry, not today. This is April 9th. I'll just run those pictures from Dadar market. Have a look at this, Shashank. Have a look at this, Shashank. You're from Mumbai. You're the COVID task force in Mumbai. Let's play the pictures, please. First set of visuals. Dadar market. Have a look at this. Mumbai has reported about 9,000 cases and 23 deaths the previous day. This is Dadar market, day before yesterday morning. And what are we going to do, Sohail? Look at the crowds. This is the reality of Mumbai today, and we are talking about a second wave. Are you seeing the picture, Sohail?
Yeah, I am. So,
and don't think Delhi is any better. Don't think Delhi is any better. I want to show the third set of pictures, please. I want to show the third set of pictures before I come to you, Sohail. Third set of pictures, 21st March. Look at the shopping in Sarojini Nagar market. Just look at this. Look at this, Sohail.
I know.
Sarojini Nagar market. Who's restraining? Who's wanting to flatten the curve?
You should have also shown photographs of the Kumbh Mela and the rallies in Bengal and Assam. Those would complete the picture. This is only 75% of the overarching picture.
Yes. Yes.
The fact that the Home Minister was not wearing a mask upon landing, other chief ministers not wearing it. I mean, it's a litany, but that's not where I want to go to. So once you finish, we'll have this discussion.
I'm done.
So here's what I feel. I've heard Smith, I've heard Nupur, the two doctors on the panel, and Dr. Guleria, who's departed from the show. So Dr. Guleria made three basic points to us. Number one, he said we had a strategy which was prepared 6 months ago. We were ready. So why the hell didn't the strategy be implemented? Number two, the government decommissioned COVID specialized facilities and hospitals. They decommissioned them thinking that it was all over. But it isn't over until the fat lady sunk. Number three, we allowed the situation to become what it is. All of us, the government, the people, the citizens, role models, influencers, we're all in it together. Now look at what's happening in India. And Arnab, this is a serious issue. Suppose you and I, forget you, suppose I have a parent or a relative who is a heart patient or a cancer patient. The government of Delhi today has said all private hospitals will have to become 80% or 100% COVID hospitals, which means people with ongoing morbidities of a serious nature are deprived of medical care because some part of the population was so goddamn irresponsible, believing that they'd be immortal. Is it the fault of an ongoing cancer survivor?
Said.
Is it the fault of a cancer patient to be deprived of ongoing medical care? Of people not getting dialysis? People not getting liver transplants? What kind of a bloody joke is this? Number two, Nupur rightly said, talking about vaccination. Vaccine hesitancy was there in India. We needed a communication plan. That communication plan is not only the problem of the government. It is the problem everywhere. It's a problem of communication. It's a problem of Sahara Dene Ki. It's a problem of what I would call spinning on media. I mean, up until a month ago, people were doubting the efficacy of Covaxin. People were saying, oh, we don't know if Bharat Biotech has done all the trials, blah, blah, blah. Come to the third point. Deflecting the argument and saying why are we exporting vaccines is the most stupid argument because Serum Institute has a licensing contractual obligation to give out vaccines as part of Gavi. That's stipulated. So don't blame Narendra Modi or Jai Shankar and don't say, oh, because they are using it for diplomacy. They have to do it. They don't have a choice. But did we not know that we are 1.3 billion people? We knew that. The government knew that. Did we not know that we will need vaccine upgradation in terms of production and supplies? We knew that. Today, Serum Institute is asking for 3,000 crores more because they need to ramp up production. Today, Bharat Biotech is asking for more money because they need to ramp up production. Today, you've given approval to Sputnik V, and rightly so, because this was the time when the approvals were coming in. But will you be able to manufacture? So here's what I want to say. I don't want to paint any more a picture of gloom. Number one, we've got to stop all crowding exercises. Whether it's an election rally, whether it's a goddamn wedding, whether it is a funeral procession, or whether it is just some odd frolicking around a market. You've got to stop it. Number two, I hate to say this, Smita alluded to it in a very welcome way that you can't have people's livelihoods being destroyed, but I guess you cannot run away from a lockdown. That lockdown must take into cognizance the economic fallout, and therefore you have to have a calibrated lockdown like the UK did. The UK's had a calibrated lockdown and they've announced dates right up to June 21. Number 3, you have to have vaccination for all. The wastage of a vaccine is sacrilegious in a country like ours. If people are not taking the vaccine out of choice, despite being asked to take it, they should be put on a no vaccine list. That's when they will learn. It is tragic, as Dr. Guleria rightly said, that people come, they are asked to come to a center, and out of arrogance or ignorance, they don't show up, and it goes waste, and another human being is deprived of this. This is tantamount to criminality of a different order. Finally, I don't care about the BJP, the MVA, the ABP, whatever the hell it is. My worry is India has to be made safe. India has to have one strategy. A Mamata Banerjee or a Modi or anyone, no one needs to play politics. You have to give one thing to Modi. When the pandemic began, it was handled very well. But to expect one man to do everything in this country is equally stupid and facetious. States must bear responsibility for the wastage of vaccines. States must bear responsibility for the way, with impunity, they allowed the lockdown to come into a large melting pot of humanity. And finally, Arnab, the media must play its due role today, moving from a gentle warning to a softer nudge, to allow people to understand the gravity of the situation. We are not talking about physical deaths alone. We are talking about an economic death creeping up on us if we don't take steps immediately. The elite, the entitled, believe that asking them to wear a mask is asking them to commit, harakiri. But no, penalize people if you have to, but this has to stop, because there will be no going back from this. And unless we speak in one voice, with one united focus as one people, we will only create division to destroy and division for death. My other plea, and I will end with this, is please don't make this into a private hospital versus public hospital. All our doctors, whether they work in public hospitals or private hospitals, are working, they're giving up their lives so that we live. We must respect that. We must also respect the priorities that private hospitals have towards non-COVID patients. You can't allow people to die because a certain other set of people was so goddamn irresponsible. Thank you so much.
Well said, Suhail, and I haven't gone to Darshan, Hiranandani and Professor Basu yet, so I'd like to just get them in and then I'll open it up. My own take is, vaccinate all students. Do not allow the young to lose an academic year. It is going to be a massive, massive vacuum in their lives. It's very difficult. And I cannot imagine students losing 2 years of their academic life because of COVID. Professor Basu, I am in total favor of vaccinating the young. Just as they say vaccinate the old, I say vaccinate the young. IT companies are the hotspots, are becoming hotspots. Schools have been shut down. Campuses, colleges, open them up. You will not be able to open them up if you do not start the vaccination drive for students now. And that is going to be completely tragic. No blame game is going to get us out of that. What do you think, Professor Basu? I'm totally against rationing of vaccines. Where do you stand?
Supply of vaccines. And there isn't an infinite supply of vaccines either in India or in the world. You've talked about importing vaccines. Now, the interesting thing is that India is the focus for production of vaccines. The whole world is looking to India to produce the vaccines for everybody. So importing will just add a little bit of supply, but we have to prioritize. And what the government has taken, the approach that the government has taken is that the older people, the the essential workers, medical workers, etc., get priority. They've already been prioritized. Next is those above 45. Now, you can talk about children, students, etc., but there isn't an infinite supply of vaccines, and so we cannot afford, no country can afford to open it up to everybody indiscriminately. So that's a first reality check that we need to take account of. The second thing I think it's worth saying, since nobody has said it, the elephant in the room here is that this entire episode of this massive second wave has emanated from one state, Maharashtra. Maharashtra accounts for more than half of all the new cases in this entire second wave. Even today, over 63,000 cases in Maharashtra in the latest yesterday's numbers. And it is also, the other elephant in the room is that federalism is part of the problem, sadly. And it is essentially the Congress-ruled states, Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, where you have the big increases in cases. And interestingly, so far, the states that have gone...
Madhya Pradesh is bad, Gujarat is bad, Uttar Pradesh isn't too great. So I don't buy that logic.
Okay, I'll compare. Okay, just a minute. No. I'll give you the exact numbers. Madhya Pradesh is next to Chhattisgarh. Okay, the two states are next to each other. Chhattisgarh was part of Madhya Pradesh. The per capita cases in Chhattisgarh are 5 times what they are in Madhya Pradesh. 5 times. Today there were 5,900 cases in Madhya Pradesh. There were more than 10,000 cases in Chhattisgarh. The population of Chhattisgarh is a small proportion of Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh has 2.5 times as many people as Chhattisgarh. Chhattisgarh has twice as many cases. So, the numbers are very, very clear. It is primarily in, if you look at the per capita cases, the worst.
Whatever. Now, PK, we need to look ahead, right? We need to look ahead. Are we raising? No. Let's say that we want uncompromisingly disciplined behavior in India. If you are not going to punish or impose severe penalties on a nationwide level or a state level, nobody is going to listen. It's going to get worse. Am I wrong here, Darshan? Darshan, let me take Darshan in from Mumbai. Darshan, are we ready to do that? Will that help?
Arnab, can you hear me?
Will that help?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. Yes.
Okay. So Arnab, I completely agree with you.
Yes.
And I'll tell you the situation is even longer term than we are talking about because we don't have a kids vaccine yet. So even if we get all the adults vaccinated, we'll still have the kids spreading the disease. Okay, and if today's mutation can affect 45 to 60-year-olds, there is no guarantee that tomorrow's mutation won't affect still younger children. So good behavior is something we have to put into our system. We are talking about a population of, let's say, 140 crore people. We are talking today about vaccine production capacity of 7 crores a month. 2 doses per person, you're talking about 280 crore doses. We are in this for the long haul. Now, lockdowns, and I agreed with everything Sohail said, I can understand the anxiety towards or the need towards a lockdown as a statement of punishment, I would say, arising out of necessity of the current situation or the current behavior or misbehavior of people. But we are in this for the long haul. So if people don't get used to double masking, social distancing, washing their hands, using sterile products, and just being careful, we are stuck with this Hobson's choice, right? If you open it up, it's a terrible situation. People misbehave. People who are vaccinated think they can't get the disease again. They can't spread it again. People who've had COVID sometimes take off their mask and say, hey, wait a minute. I'm invincible. I've got antibodies for some period of time and I'm good to go. So the reality is the messaging has to be strict. The messaging has to be clear. And I'm just saying that today our political leaders are the biggest icons in the country. Media is the biggest icon in the country. Sports people are the biggest icons in the country. Honestly, I think the cricket matches should be played with all players wearing masks. All right? If that's the rule, that's the rule. If it means it's a slow game, it's a slow game. If it means it's a shorter game, if T20 has to be made T10, that's fine. We want their health is important, but messaging has to be clear.
We got IPL coming in.
We are all on TV.
No, the irony in all of this is,
We are far away.
No, IPL is going on now. No, we place every consideration. You got IPL going on. We're talking about being in the middle of the worst way. We got IPL going on now.
But Arnab, what I'm trying to say is, we have to demonstrate that life can carry on.
And as far as the Maharashtra government is concerned, it made it absolutely clear that film and TV serial production should not be affected. Why?
My point is, nothing should be affected.
Why not? Why do you feel? You said Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, they've said movies and serials must continue to be made. Why? Are they essential services?
Arnab, you're absolutely right. In this game, it's the optics.
My view is, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying.
Everyone in our country wants to be an exception. The problem is, everyone in India, Sohail, wants to be the exception to the rule.
No, let me tell you, the optics are slightly skewed in this country. What right do you have to tell someone, even if it's a Delhi High Court judgment, that please wear a mask when you're alone driving in a car? And when you see people in rallies, in religious functions, out in markets, throwing caution to the wind, then you're mocking both justice and the reality of the situation, which is pretty grim. As you, Arnab, rightly said at the beginning of the program, you need to have one rule, one country, one problem that we are all addressing. You cannot have, different rules for different
I agree with you.
This whole nonsense about federalism must be thrown to the wind.
You cannot.
If states cannot be responsible, then the states need to be.
No, you cannot. But then that's what it is. Nupur.
Can I just, Arnab,
we were successful first time because everybody followed one line of thought.
But I just want to continue from where Sohail and Professor Basu led, and Professor Basu is absolutely right. The 5 states accounting for 70% of infections and 44% deaths are Maharashtra, Punjab, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand and Rajasthan. Secondly, I do understand that people have a problem with leaders, going and rallying. Well, calling the elections is absolutely the Election Commission of India's prerogative. As far as the leaders are concerned, there's a photograph going viral today. All these leaders are undergoing tests very regularly, rather daily. The issue also is, like Sohail said, is it the Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's responsibility to handhold everybody and everyone? Why do I say that? Is because until unless, for example, take the case of Delhi, the Home Minister will intervene. We will shut out the extra beds and COVID care centers that we have actually made in Delhi. Secondly, I also want to come into the issue of not testing enough, not contact tracing enough. And thirdly, the hesitancy also comes from the fact that 3 states have actually gone on record to say, हमें Covaxin नहीं चाहिए, ये इसकी efficacy नहीं है. I mean, stop the politics right there and then. Sometimes to deflect attention from not being able to control the situation in your own state.
I agree with you.
This politics of we are running out of vaccines. Well, a state, I'm sorry to say, Maharashtra's health minister on Wednesday.
I agree with you. No.
But on Wednesday he said we have 14 lakh jabs.
Sameer Jalwai, respond.
He said we have 10 lakh jabs. Just listen to me. If in 2 days you have 24 lakh jabs, how come you were closing the COVID vaccination centers? Were you giving out 12 lakh jabs a day?
So I absolutely appreciate what Nupur said. I just like to come back earlier to what
it's a good point.
I just like to come back to earlier to what Professor Basu said. Let me assure him with all the science that I know that viruses, either COVID or others, have no way of differentiating between somebody who's from the state of Maharashtra or who's somebody from the neighboring state, or whether he's from Chhattisgarh, which was earlier part of some other state, or the original state. Viruses have no such recognition of people states, regions, or political ideologies. Let me also very respectfully say that France and all the other countries in the world which are going through a second and a third wave neither have a BJP nor a Congress party. So let us all understand this is a pandemic. Everybody has to have COVID appropriate behavior. And there is no way of showing that a particular state encouraged COVID inappropriate behavior more than others. This is a phenomenon which is going to spread from a more densely populated packed area
on a curious
to other
note,
areas.
Yeah.
No. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it was very irresponsible of people like Shashi Tharoor. Shashi Tharoor was leading the group of people who said that Covaxin could be dangerous. I think their comments like this by Shashi Tharoor were dangerous. And Congress MP Manish Tiwari had said in January, why didn't anyone from the government take the shot? I'd be very curious to know whether Manish Tiwari has taken the shot. And if he has, whether that makes him completely hypocritical about his first comment. Politicians, you know.
See, one thing, Arnab, what Nupur mentioned, what is the need of the hour is a national emergency. The center needs to usurp state powers if states are behaving irresponsibly 100%. Because they are endangering Indian lives. An Indian lives in Maharashtra, an Indian lives in Chhattisgarh, an Indian lives in Delhi. If you're endangering an Indian life, you need to be wrapped on the knuckles. Why the hell don't the courts step in? I mean, they step in for everything. Why don't they step in for this?
I think, I'd say this, I agree with you, Sohail. Sohail, I'll tell you one thing. I may also be unpopular for saying this. When the battle against COVID began, Prime Minister Narendra Modi set the rules. The people of India followed. It is time for the Prime Minister alone to set the rules right now. The people of India will follow. Too much democracy within a democracy in a time of a national emergency can make the situation more complex. I thank you all for joining me on this tonight. And ladies and gentlemen, double mask. Be careful about where you go. Maintain do gaz ki duri. And please be socially responsible and responsible for your loved ones as well, and for all of us. Good night and goodbye.